Drug-Induced-Rambling. Okay, let's talk about hostage rescue. So it seems to me, because it's unlikely for a person to encounter or be in a hostage situation or home invasion situation, there's a distortion in how the public perceives it. I've talked about this before, but certain lines of work are understood to specialists, and because a lot of people will only have Hollywood movies as their education for a field, like intelligence agency stuff, the common perspective of it more closely resembles Hollywood fantasy than it does reality. Hostage rescue is one of those. What a SWAT negotiator, or whoever has the unenviable task of rescuing hostages from a terrorist incident or home invasion or whatever, what he's dreading almost as much as the perpetrator being mentally unbalanced enough to kill off hostages randomly is one of the hostages trying to be a hero. I think of all the media portrayals, Firefly did it best. A hero is someone who gets people around them killed. Sometimes people get this idea that they've never been in a dangerous situation, but when they do, they're going to be this courageous hero that's going to rescue everyone or die trying, though it's likely they'll get said hostages killed if they do actually muster up the courage to make the attempt. The negotiator's job is to end the situation with as few people dead as possible for home invasion situations when, say, a mentally unstable person is taken hostages. The negotiator's job is to keep that person as calm as possible and not escalate the situation. But if Joe Schmo decides to make a move, there's a lot of ways things can go wrong which Joe Schmo didn't consider. There's a reason the SAS treat everyone as hostile when trying to rescue hostages from terrorists, because not doing so leads to worse outcomes. If you decide to be a hero and get the drop on a guard and start shooting up the building, this plan you have for how you're going to save everyone and what exit you're going to take the hostages out of, that plan exists only in the confines of your mind. The rescue team outside, all they know is they just heard gunshots. They don't know who you are or whose side you're on, and they're not going to recognize you as friendly when they see you carrying a rifle. They're going to throw you on the ground and restrain you because their orders are to treat everyone hostile. You could be anyone. You could be a terrorist shouting, "I'm friendly," but what do you think would happen if rescue teams made a habit of listening to people that shout, "I'm friendly," and allow them to keep their guns and continue operating? They could simply lie and shoot a rescue officer in the back, since for cheap suicide mission terrorists, even if they die soon after from one of the rescue teammates, that's still cost-effective because rescue officers and bomb squad staff are expensive. What if you're a hostage and you were captured by one team of terrorists and you don't know another team moved a bomb into the building and their orders are to detonate the second they hear gunfire? Now you just killed yourself and all the other hostages like a dumbass. This plan people develop of how the SWAT team's gonna do task A and the freed and armed hostages are gonna do task B is a plan that exists only in the mind of said hostage and in Hollywood. The rescue team has their own plan of which groups are going to enter the building from which points, and none of your freed hostage teammates are wearing a rescue uniform. Friendly fire would abound. It's one of the reasons swatting is dangerous, because the situation is altered by a lack of information. If a SWAT team knows someone is in a house holding hostages, they may or may not know what said person looks like. If you get the drop on him and kill him, they may think you're the one who took the hostages and shoot you. Hollywood gives this portrayal that hostages are sitting down in a group, able to converse amongst themselves, look around, making observations and formulating a plan, and possibly wearing all their clothes and armed with holdout weapons, none of which will be true if you're dealing with trained terrorists that have been given hostage control briefings. The hostages will be laying face down, often restrained and blindfolded, possibly stripped naked, or at least given a pat-down, and if one starts turning his head to look around, he gets the back of his head bashed a few times with an AK. Anything less than that is amateur hour as far as hostage-taking goes. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of amateur hour hostage-takers, and that is a plausible situation, but it is amateur hour nonetheless. The ideal situation for the SAS director, SWAT negotiator, or whoever, is for all the hostages to remain still on the floor so none of them get shot or interfere at all, because if you're a hostage, you're limited by the information you don't have. If you don't know they moved a bomb into the building, then you don't know where it is, or what the detonation conditions are, for example. And unfortunately, part of this public detachment is one of the reasons I don't foresee myself winning an election in the United States. One of the lines of research that's desired for hostage rescue is better forms of non-lethal capture, such as sleep gas. But the real-life versions of incapacitation agents are not as functional as they are in movies. Unfortunately, in real life, if you pump a building full of gas to knock out the terrorists, they may recognize what's going on and kill the hostages, or you may end up killing hostages because overdose of sleep gas can be lethal. Or you may knock out some terrorists and not others. If there's children involved, chances are you'll kill a few because their body can't handle the chemicals. But research to improve that state of affairs is highly stigmatized. What politician is going to campaign for development and fielding of better chemical weapons? That research and development would be for non-lethal sleep gas to increase survival rates for everyone involved and rescue more hostages, but that's not going to stop whoever his campaign opponent is from launching smear ads with Ebola and nerve gas pictures and talking about how he supports chemical weapon use. It's one of the things people feel morally justified in not looking into thoroughly. Oh, that guy supports chem weapons? Nope! Because chem weapons are bad, so there's no need to investigate which bioweapons are being used or why. Chemical and biological weapons are bad, and people feel a moral entitlement to ignorance when it comes to topics they're passionate about. So supporting hostage rescue and non-lethal capture improvement is a political death sentence because fear-mongering is a thing. If I were a congressman or president or some such, I'd want to start up chem weapon research for the purpose of capturing people alive more efficiently to improve our counterterrorism operations and rescuing hostages with higher survival rates, and preferably capturing the perpetrators alive so we can interrogate them. If hostage situations can be made less dangerous, it'd be better for all parties involved, so I'd want to develop the associated bioweapons and prepare them for domestic use against potential home invasion situations and start fielding the chemicals as part of SWAT team arsenals if things were successful enough for that to be practical and an improvement to hostage survival rates. But that is nonetheless technically chemical and biological weapon research and use, and those are bad. Do you remember the Red Line in Syria media parade that happened in 2013? The mere accusation of potential use of chemical weapons made people feel morally entitled to destabilize a country with any potential outcome being acceptable, and also morally entitled to not have to investigate if the claim was legitimate or have a reasonable standard of evidence. The mere accusation, founded or not, comes associated with so much fear-mongering and a moral entitlement to go with the flow that the phrase chemical weapons is just that powerful. A person may say, yes, if you sat them down and asked them, would you like the government to work on improving sleeping gas for hostage rescue? But once they see a few Ebola chemical weapon smear campaign advertisements, they'll be too full of panic to actually vote for that outcome. What was my original point in this video? Painkillers. I'll see you next time. Later, YouTube.